Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. We're just going to get started with the 500 millibar chart here. This is about now. We do have some little bit of ridging over our area, hence why we're not really getting much precipitation at the moment, and the radar is rather clear. We do have a bit of a trough developing to our west-northwest around the center of low pressure. And as we head through this evening and into the overnight hours, and then into Sunday morning, you'll notice that that trough starts to dig deeper, further south, and is maybe getting a little bit more intense. Then as we head later into Sunday, you'll notice that there's a jet streak kind of on its eastern side here, and it seems to be getting a bit more intense. And as we head into Sunday evening, yeah, that jet streak is getting pretty strong. You see how the height contours here are kind of spreading out as they leave this jet streak. That is called defluence. And it, of course, leads to rising motion, which means precipitation. Usually. Not always. Sometimes. In this case, certainly, because it's a pretty extreme example. But as we head into overnight and early Monday morning, that low pressure system just takes off. That jet gets really intense. And if we back up a few hours here, we actually end up in the left exit region of this jet, which means more rising motion. And this is a really intense jet. This darker purple in the middle here is over 130 knots, which is probably like 150, 160 miles per hour. Now, again, this is higher up in the atmosphere. Definitely not at the surface. Don't panic. But anything in the pink here is over 110 knots. So that is a very powerful jet. Needless to say, this is quite the intense low pressure system here, and it is more than likely going to cause us some problems. Well, now let's go a little bit farther down in the atmosphere. We are still above the surface. We're kind of at the mid-lower levels of the atmosphere. 850 millibar chart. And we do still see some ridging over our area, as expected at this time. And we do start to see an area of low pressure building to our west-northwest. And there's not, again, much like with what we saw earlier, there aren't huge changes from tonight into Sunday morning. This does deepen a little bit. But it's after this point that stuff really takes off. That thing just deepens really rapidly. This is literally, Sunday morning. This is 7 a.m. This is 7 p.m. tomorrow. Huge difference. And that low pressure system is really getting going. And as we keep going through Sunday night and into Monday morning, wow, that thing gets really intense. Whew. Well, now let's take a dive down to the surface. Again, nothing really interesting going on at the moment. We do maybe have some scattered lows in this kind of area around North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. But as we move through, again, no major changes. In the first part of the period, we do start to see a low pressure center developing in Kansas, and that kind of gets pulled and extended north and starts to deepen and become more defined as we head through Sunday. You start to see a very well-defined cold front along this area, and of course a warm front stretching along this direction. And that warm front will push into our area a little bit. And of course that low pressure system deepens, and then this is 7 p.m. Warm front all the way up here. Cold front is, that is a big cold front. That is a absolute chunker of a cold front. And there is some very cold air coming in behind that. And then as we head into Sunday evening into the overnight hours, and then we get into Monday morning, like, oh my god. I'm taking a screenshot. I'm taking a screenshot of that and sending that to my weather friends because oh my lord, that is crazy. Okay, well now we're getting to business. You saw me gawk and awe and go whoa, but what does that mean for us? Well, for the first part of the period, nothing. It means nothing for us. But as that low begins to deepen, intensify, and move closer to our area, rain is going to build into the area. A lot of rain, more rain, heavier rain, maybe even some heavier rain, then more rain, maybe a little bit of mix on the backside, and then a little bit of snow. Especially as we head into Monday, as the system moves out of the area, the main precipitation region ceases, and then lake effect snow also comes in behind that. So the story is precipitation, 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 precipitation. Rain, 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 snow. Now, one thing to keep an eye on is, as you'll notice, on the north side of this system, and especially on the northwest side, there's a lot more snow, especially over the Upper Peninsula. That is some very heavy snow. You'll also notice on the north side, more on the northeastern side, there's a lot of freezing rain, a lot of ice, a lot of it. So as for now, we are looking to be in the heaviest rain bands. But if this system ends up shifting south considerably, we could be looking at more ice. We could be looking at more snow. It really just depends. But at this time, I don't think it'll change enough to bring all that down to our area. Maybe enough to bring it further down to like Traverse City or maybe even a little bit farther south than that. But at the moment, it looks like we're just in for rain, 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 and rain, with a little bit of snow on top. Of course, we will continue to watch this and keep you updated. But the precipitation is not all of the story. When you see a low pressure system like that, especially with an intense jet like that, there's another thing you got to take a look at. And if you guessed it was wind, you are very right. So, again, this evening and into tonight, nothing major. We're going to be lucky to see winds in the 10 mile per hour range. But then, here comes that system. So the wind is going to start moving in after the precipitation. I mean, it is going to be precipitating when it moves in, but it's the precipitation is going to start before the wind starts to pick up. And the wind moves in right around midnight between Sunday and Monday. So right as the clock is striking, is ticking over into Monday, the wind's going to pick up. And it's initially just going to start in the 20 mile per hour range, then build into the 30s. And it is possible, it's likely not, but it is possible that we see sustained winds as high as 35 miles per hour. But realistically, the sustained winds are going to be in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range, which are still pretty strong for sustained winds. What about wind gusts? It does get a little bit gusty tonight, maybe up to the 20 mile per hour range. And it kind of remains that way through tomorrow morning. And then we get a brief break from the winds tomorrow afternoon. And then here it comes. The gusts again start to build in a little bit earlier than the sustained winds, just like an hour or two ahead. And it goes up to 30, then 40, then 50. And then getting close to, whoopsies, let's not look at that. Then again, as we head into 7 a.m. Monday, we may even see gusts approaching 60. So very windy indeed. Gusts, for the most part, between 40 and 60 miles per hour. So it probably won't be a bad idea to secure some loose items that are hanging around, like garbage cans and so on, because it's going to get windy. Now I'm going to pull this up. We all know what it's going to show because it's winter in Michigan, and we've been talking about rain, 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 and lots of rain. But let's just take a look at the cloud cover map, mainly for today. And no, it doesn't look like we're going to see a break in the clouds today. And then, of course, yeah. If you enjoy seeing the sun, I'm sorry, you're going to have to keep waiting. But wait, I've seemed to have gotten ahead of myself. We haven't even looked at our lows and highs yet. We got so excited about the big system that we didn't even take a look at the lows and highs. So today, our high is likely going to be in the low to mid 30s. And overnight, it's not going to get much colder. Coldest period is likely to be around 10 p.m.-ish. Well, actually, this is 7, 8, 9, it's 9 p.m. And that is going to be right around the 30 mark. Now, as the warm front comes into our area tomorrow, temperatures will rise, potentially as high as 45, maybe even 50. It is possible. I don't think it will hit, or I don't think it'll go above 50, but it is possible that it gets very close or even reaches 50 degrees. But it is looking like we are going to get up into the 40, 45, mid to upper 40s at least. Then, of course, the cold front comes in right behind that, and the temperatures will drop. The overnight lows, the cold front is going to come overnight, so the low is going to be realized probably more like Monday morning. In fact, it just gets colder as you head deeper into Monday. This is 7 a.m. and we're pretty much right on the line between above 20 and below 20, so probably right around 20. And it will probably get a little bit colder as we head through the day Monday, and yeah. Well, how much precipitation are we supposed to get? Well, I would love to blow up this image some more. Actually, let's see if I can't get that. There we go. We do now have this image blown up more now. This is the 24-hour precipitation forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, and the colors indicate the higher rain totals. So anything in the dark, anything that is blue is over half an inch of rain being forecast. Anything that is any shade of purple is 1.5 inches or greater. And it appears on this map that the Lansing area is probably in this last bright blue right before the purple, which would be the 1.25 to 1.5 inch range. So 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. So a lot of rain. Now let's also take a look at this fun little thing I found. It's the probabilistic precipitation portal, also from the Weather Prediction Center. And this shows the expected amount and also the high end and low end scenarios. So for the Lansing area, just kind of scanning around, it's about between 1.4 and 1.35 inches. So over an inch, not quite half an inch, but probably closer to half an inch than just 1 inch. So let's say 1 inch and 1/3 of an inch. If we go to the low end amount, oh, sweet, new forecast data. I gotta reset this now. There we go. Yeah, so that's still roughly the same. The expected for our area is about 1.4 inches. There we go. Yeah, so now the forecast has gone up ever so slightly with this updated information. Now the eastern side is looking at 1.4 inches, and the western side is looking more at 1.45 inches. So we're definitely closer to the half-inch range, although on the north side it is a little bit lower. Of course, the yellow over here is greater than 1.5 inches. Let's zoom out just a little bit. And now let's look at the low end forecast. The low end forecast has, it looks like about 1/2 inch across the board for much of the region. I guess it hasn't loaded enough to give that little preview, so let's just give it a click. And yeah, the low end is about 1/2 inch. Now, if we go to the high end amount, again, same story. It hasn't really loaded enough to give those previews. With the high end amount, we are over that 1.5 inch range, and there are some areas that are over 2 inches. So again, if we click, expected high end is about 1.7 inches of rain. Now finally, last thing, I know this is a longer video, let's take a look at snow. The snow that's coming on the backside. The expected amount for our area is just a simple 1 to 2 inches. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy schmancy, but enough to cover the ground. The low end scenario is about a half an inch, so we're more than likely at the very least still going to get a dusting. And then the high end scenario is 3 inches. So this looks like a pretty stable forecast at the moment. Again, unless that big northerly snow bomb drifts south, which I don't see that really happening too much. But this looks like a pretty stable forecast. You can count at least half an inch to be between the half an inch and the 3 inch range, but will more than likely be between an inch and 2 inches. That is all I have for today. I know a big long forecast. Tomorrow's video will probably be just as long, but again, that's what I've got for today, and I hope to see you tomorrow.